All right, and we're back with another episode of the Bet the Casual. We are previewing UFC 259 today. We just got finished with UFC Vegas 20 this past weekend. The weekend before was, just a great card, headlined by some great heavyweights, and they all came to show. I'm sure you want to dive into that a little bit with the Black Beast there.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? Like the way we have it. By the time people see this, UFC Vegas 20 would have already taken place. But yeah, it's funny. You were making this transition to the light heavyweights, and then all of a sudden, here come Chris Dawkins, Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gann, Jairzinho Rosenstruck, all these guys just coming out the woodwork, ready to, let you know, Pies, you're not alone. It's like hip-hop ain't dead. Well, MMA heavyweights ain't dead either. And so, I think that's the most exciting thing to come out of, I would say, the last couple of weeks, right? If you ask me, win or lose across the board, it's just a revitalization of the heavyweight division, which if you're paying attention to the fights that much, you can see that that's very much happening.
Yeah, every person in those bouts came to, put on a show. There wasn't, these lazy, slow fights, anything like that. Everyone was in it. And so, got me excited again. So we got a great card coming up for UFC.
Let's just be real, though.
Yeah, the Black Beast.
Never doubt.
Pay homage.
Don't doubt. Don't doubt. Doubt is the cousin of fear. My man.
Ooh, I like that. If you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button. All our information is below. Let's dive right into this bad boy, man. Kicking us off, we got a nice bantamweight bout between Trevin 5-Star Jones and Mario Bautista.
Pie is his boy. Smoke.
Little smoke. Given what he said, let's dive right into Trevin Jones there. He took on Timur Valiev, and rewatching that fight, holy shit, dude. What a beast, man. Sucks that one was nullified by the smoky smoke, but what an impressive comeback, man. Timur was really, it felt like dictating the pace, really landing the shots, but Trevin came back nice. What did you see on that one?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, we saw Timur absolutely demolish all three levels of striking, right? He attacked the legs, he attacked the body, he attacked the head. But here comes Trevin Jones, sober as a goose, just, chilling out and just going for broke at the perfect time. I can remember that Valiev's hands were kind of down towards the fence, and he just kind of came around and swung right at him. And it was like, that almost seemed like a cheap shot street fight in a weird way. It was just like, did Valiev almost seem like he didn't expect it, because I was just a little it was just a perfect shot, right? Perfect shot, yeah. Perfect power, dropped him. And we talked about Valiev a bit after that fight. We even said, in terms of keeping his hands up, and when he's especially attacking lower parts of the body, things like that, or when he's even maybe tired from just trying to throw so many strikes at a guy who clearly was able to take a lot of damage, right? That's the big thing with Trevin Jones. I think he just proved his durability in there. His ability to just kind of, like you said, perseverance to find that perfect shot and just drop a guy who was so hyped going into that fight. That was probably my best part of that one.
Yeah, that was a really enjoyable one to rewatch, man. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. And like you said, he picked his moment, found his opportunity to attack, and took a lot of damage and still looked just as strong and formidable. So
yeah, for sure.
For him, on the flip side, we got Mario Bautista, 8-1 record. I got to ask you, man, who makes their debut against Sandhagen?
Okay.
In what world does this happen?
Hold on. Anyway, John Lineker was supposed to take that fight. John Lineker could not take that fight. And here comes our boy Super Mario, thinking he really is Super Mario and just hopping right in there. And all the power to him, right? He actually looked good. I think you probably watched that fight. And then, yeah, Sandhagen does Sandhagen things. He's basically Spider-Man in there at this point to me. He's got a new movie coming out. Check it out.
Honestly, he it's what he looks like. I was watching him in the ring. I'm like, we keep touching on nostalgia, but when he talks about the fighters coming into the ring, that's this guy right here. So much energy, man. He was bouncing around everywhere, throwing insane knees, kicks. We saw one land with Miles Johns that really knocked him out. So I love this man's style.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So you make your debut against Sagan. Well, I guess I'm ready for pretty much anybody now. And he just goes on that 2-0 run, right? And including that amazing knee against Miles Johns. So I really think that we're watching a great fighter blossom from what was one of the best career opportunities you could ever take. If my UFC debut is a loss to Corey Sandhagen, inshallah, bro, make that happen. Like, let's go, bro. Are you kidding me? Like, that guy is probably still so grateful for that opportunity and is laughing to the bank after 2 straight wins, right? So I'm really excited to see what he can do against the guy who's very durable, almost in a crash test dummy kind of way, but Trevin Jones is very skilled on the feet, and despite being able to take shots and things like that, scrambles, things like that are going to really be the difference. I think, Mario needs to avoid leaping in. We saw what happened when hands can be down against a guy like this. I think the speed could be a problem. There's no real size advantage here either. So I think that what Mario brings to the table is a very real skill set, and I think a guy like Trevin Jones, who looked fairly raw, but also very durable and resilient and, crisp. That was a very crisp strike, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't believe this is the first fight on the card. It shows you the epicness of this card.
Epicness.
This is going to be a great one to kick us off. Let's quickly touch on the lines here. I personally have no idea who's going to be the favorite here. I'll go ahead and guess first. Shot in the dark here. I'm going to go Bautista as a -150 favorite.
My guy. So I was actually going to go Bautista with a -160.
Oh, all right. And let's check out the line here. We do not have a line on this one.
Yeah, so just a heads up for you too, Pies, because I know you're not getting preemptively the look at the lines now. A lot of these fights, even from when I set my list up over the last couple of days, like there was a bunch added over the last week or so. So, I mean, you're going to see like these weird ones come up. I thought I remembered even seeing the Kai Kara France being the first fight on this card, if I remember correctly, at least from where we kind of pull ours between UFC Stats, Tapology, ESPN. But I mean, we could jump right into the next one because I'm pretty sure we'll see if there's a line.
I did find a line on Odds Shark.
My guy.
-210 for Bautista.
Beautiful. I mean, that lines up more with me than you, but I think that we have a pretty good understanding of where the lean should be. I think we already discussed kind of what we were saying, right? The speed, the movement, things like that. It's just you're going to be seeing the athletic, polished, quick kind of fighter hop in there, and I think that's what's going to maybe be a bit of a difference for them. But again, Trevin has shown some very interesting power, and that's what makes me excited to watch him fight again.
And so that takes us into our next fight. It's a lightweight bout, someone we're really excited to see.
The doctor's
we highlighted them in our prospect video. Exactly. The doctor is here. Go check out that prospect video from March if you haven't already done so. But highlighted in there is Uras the Doc Medic. He's taking on Alon Cruz. Really pumped for this one. I know we touched on it before, but checking out the Medic here, I was shocked to see that he's the number 3 ranked lightweight. Lo and behold, that's in Australia. Let's touch on the Medic for a little bit.
Alaska.
Sorry, Alaska. What did I say? Australia,
yeah. Best.
So, the thing that stood out for me is that there's a lot of power in this man. We saw that in the Dana White Contender Series between kicks, punches, relentless attack. He's a powerful man. I think that's going to be a lot for Cruz to handle.
I totally agree, man.
What do you think here? Yeah.
Yeah. So I what we kind of saw was a guy who enjoyed pushing the pace, but also picked his strikes very well. He was very cheap with his strikes. I felt like he landed a good rate. I was impressed. You like that terminology?
He was very cheap. That's a good one. You're on fire today, man. You're on fire.
he's the volume is there, and I thought he absolutely let's look at stats. This is what I want to pull up for sure, because he obviously doesn't have much taper. But in that win against Gonzalez, his strikes landed per minute were 14.5, and his strikes absorbed were 0.91. And his defense was 83%. I mean, when you look at what he did in that fight, obviously, we're talking about quality of opponents, all these kinds of things, blah blah blah. But he showed that even in what is probably the biggest fight of his career in that moment, he was so poised, he was so calm, and the way he finished with that cross, I thought that was beautiful. Left cross right up the top. He was constantly chopping the body up. He was looking for combos with the legs and the hands. I was just really impressed overall.
Yeah, likewise, rewatching that fight myself, I'm like, this guy has a lot of skills, man. there's a lot of promise here for sure. No surprise why he's on our prospect watch for sure. On the flip side, we got Cruz here. Can we touch on the old school modeling picture he has on Tapology here? I literally was enticed to go buy some Calvin Klein underwear after this.
Yeah. He's kind of like, doesn't he look really tiny in this picture? Like he makes you feel like he's a flyweight, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The guy's 6 foot with a 78-inch reach.
Was not what I was expecting from that picture for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like he's really well built for this size. He actually, he fights at one lower weight class and looks so big for it. It's actually pretty crazy.
Yeah, so we did see him make his debut against Spike Carlisle. Someone we're a little familiar with as well. It seemed like he tried to clinch a lot in that one, and Spike was just too powerful for it. And that was kind of what I took away from that. And that's kind of how he got knocked in that, just trying to hold Spike down and that power just erupted from him. What did you kind of see there?
I mean, I think I just saw the better fighter kind of get top mount and just really kind of wear on a guy. I don't think there was much of an opportunity. I think a lot of the holding was primarily defensive. I think Spike was dominating most of that fight, especially as it got towards the fence and to the ground. Even the way he was striking his head and just trying any which way to just get that finish. And the moment, Cruz let go, I mean, it was basically just on the floor at that point, and the referee ended immediately when he let go. So I just think that Spike Carlisle is a great test for someone like Alan Cruz. But I mean, Euros is looking like a very different style fighter. So for me, I'm going to say if you can get him close and that's your game, I mean, you want to be able to take him down. You want to be able to kind of exploit the grappling, if you will. But if you're going to stand and trade with this man, like you have to be able to kind of avoid some of these power shots because the kid definitely packs power, right? If you want to stand and trade, like you got to avoid, anything that might either clip you or get you to the ground. Because even from the top, I can see Euros landing big bombs, man, and they look like they're going to hurt. So in that sense, I think both these guys are going to have some nice length, but the way I liked Cruz, even in that fight, man, he looks long. He looks really big for the featherweight class, and he's going to be fighting at lightweight for this one. So he's giving up a bit of that, right? That's the difference in his normal weight class. So it's going to be a tough fight, and I think that both guys are going to be able to kind of showcase the striking because clearly Euros loves that side of the game, and he proved that he can do it at a pretty high level regardless of his opponents are. And both these guys, between the 3 fights of them, they've never been taken down or have tried taking down anybody. So we know what we're getting here.
Yeah, and something you touched on is that reach advantage, right? He has a 7-inch reach advantage in this one as well, right? So let's see if he can use that kind of to his advantage here. Let's quickly touch on the line here. I'll let you go first here. Do you have a guess on this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Euros being the favorite here. I don't see Vegas thinking anything different. He just looked hella dominant. So we'll go with a minus 250 for Euros.
Okay. I was going to go similar, but a little less. So I'm going to go with minus 200 for Euros. I do believe he deserves to be the favorite here. And by a substantial amount. So let's look at these. And wow, he is actually a minus 160 favorite. So not a heavy favorite by any means. Yeah.
And so Mr. Alain, like we said, right, the reach is there, but at the same time, like there's a difference between reach and height and size, right? So yeah, he's got a 7-inch reach, but there's only a real inch or two, maybe in height difference. Like these guys size-wise are really going to match up. And to be quite honest, the fact that Euros is a natural lightweight and our boy here is moving up. I mean, he doesn't have to cut weight, which is great, but I think that he's now going to lose a little bit of that advantage that he usually gets at the 145.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for that one. That takes us right into our next one. I know we're pretty pumped about this one, as the person that, is fighting in this one is highlighted in our prospect video as number 1. So, this fight is going to be pretty telling, but we got a welterweight bout, Sean Brady and Jake Matthews. Sean Brady, man, this guy is hot fire. He's won 13 in a row. Obviously, his record is 13-0-0, so he's won 13 in a row. 3-0 in the UFC. We touched on it earlier, but he was supposed to fight Bilal Muhammad, who I was really excited to see. But getting the vet and Jake Matthews is going to be great as well. So, school me a little bit on Sean Brady here.
Well, we saw him on Dana White's Contender Series. We saw Paul Felder kind of praise him throughout the fight. And it's funny, you would think he's such a fanboy, but it's funny. He was almost like prophesizing what was happening. You know, he said, you know, he's rolled and just basically wrestled with this kid more than 100 times, and he's felt his grip in a lot of these submissions. He's the moment he got that top down, he locked that in. This man just kept yelling and yelling. He's out. He's okay. No, he's out. Yeah, and then the fight was over. So, I mean, I think we talked about on the prospect watch as well. You know, he talked about how that CFFC title, he won it the exact same way, almost like a finishing move in the WWE, right? We said the exact same thing, but he's looking good in all areas. I think his grappling is phenomenal. I think the groundwork that we saw was really good. He's always aggressive, looking for submissions, and frankly, on the feet, he looked really deadly too.
Yeah, absolutely. And another fight that we touched on that prospect watch was against, you know, international pop star Christina Aguilera. But, you know, even that one, you know, domination and that scary guillotine finish in that second round. You know, he's really showing what he can do here and mix up his game, you know, between decisions, submissions, knockouts. Seems very versatile. And
when we want to talk about like the real skill there, for me, it was like the timing, right? Like you notice him time these shots, like a guy swinging and then just you feel a guy just like that's like you're making a guy kind of almost look dumb, right? Like that's real shit. Like that there was 2 perfectly timed takedowns there that I remember that were just so well done. And you can even hear Felder kind of fanboy that part too, just about how great that timing was. But those were the things that I took away, right? I saw borderline, like raw elite skill in there when it came to, you know, the timing, the movements, little things like that. He just really did outclass his opponent in some ways, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's touch on Jake Matthews a little bit. He does have, you know, a 17-4 record. But man, he's won 3 straight and 6 of 7 in the UFC, right? So, you know, he's really on a roll as well. We saw him take on our boy Diego Sanchez most recently. And, you know, the thing that stood out to me in that one was that he was really able to keep Diego at bay, right? He knows the explosive power of Diego Sanchez and you know, the relentlessness, but he was really able to keep him at bay, right? And really limit that. That's kind of what stood out to me in rewatching that one.
Yeah, and I also think, like, so I've been watching Jake Matthews since his debut, and, like, the kid's pretty much at 15 fights, and he's at 26 years old. Like, it's pretty nuts where he's at in his career. And I just think that fight specifically, I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from Diego Sanchez, but I've also watched him for pretty much his entire UFC career, and, like, there's obviously a bit of a decline there. So if it was the Diego Sanchez that we know and love and saw kind of in his prime, I don't know if it would have gone so similarly. I think Jake Matthews has a great game plan. And, you know, I think Sanchez usually goes in there and tries to do similar things and tries to mix it up a little bit. But, you know, he's looking for some strikes. He's looking to grab some wrestling, wear you down, ground and pound, that type of stuff. But, you know, Jake Matthews, when you look at the losses, like when you look at a guy who's 26 years old with that many UFC fights, you know, the losses stand out more than anything. And it's like you got James Vick, you got Kevin Lee, you know, Andrew Holbrook and Antonio Rocco Martin. Like Antonio Rocco Martin was a ranked fighter who fought Neil Magny a little while ago, I believe. So like these are real deal fighters, right? And that's for me where I see that, you know, despite how much potential Sean Brady's showing, Jake Matthews is resume for 26-year-old is phenomenal. You know, he might not have as much versatility as you'd expect at this point in his career. Like there's some, you know, added aspects to that, but I love the movement. I love how he holds his frame. He likes to brawl. I think he's definitely going to be in the UFC for a long time.
And how do you see him kind of matching up against Sean Brady? You know, a very different fighter than Diego Sanchez in his last one.
Yeah, like I would say, don't get caught up in being flat-footed. You know, I think Sean Brady's going to really move around. I think he's going to be able to pick some real good strikes. I think hands are going to be up. I think you have to make sure that you're getting the best of your game too, right? And that's where I think when you look at this fight, you know, how close are they? It really is kind of a tough fight to call on paper, in my opinion. You know, as they say, like I'm going to take a Paul Felder outlook on this one, but like for me, the lines borderline don't mean shit here because you really do see guys that are fairly, you know, even across the board, but like Sean Brady is looking really good, like 100% takedown, right? Like these are like 100% takedown defense versus 70% on Matthew's side.
Yeah,
it's the striking's really, really close. I feel like Sean Brady takes a bit more damage, but at the same time, it's not like Matthews is throwing as much as Brady is either. So I'm just looking at this fight. It's just so evenly matched up size-wise, everything. Even their average fight time is just about 12 minutes. So that just means it's something. I think that it's just a really close fight. And you can make the argument that it's not really prospect, but these are contenders. Like I feel like these guys both have skill to be contenders. And so whoever comes out of this is going to be in a really, really good spot.
Yeah, this is going to be a real tough one to call. I have no idea what the line is going to be. So I'm going to give a shot in the dark and give Jake Matthews the slight favorite here. I'll go at maybe minus 140.
And you know what? I was actually, I think, leaning towards that. But Jake Matthews hasn't done as much as Jake Brady. And I'm going to play devil's advocate here. And I'm actually going to go with Brady getting some hype here. And I'm going to say minus 130. Just let's have some fun with it.
Oh. All right. And then, holy Moses, was not expecting this. Sean Brady is a minus 250 favorite.
Yeah, I'm being quite honest with you. Like that was a Vegas hype train that I was willing to take a chance on. But I only had minus 160 written down, and I even lowered that. But I think that the hype is there. I think Jake Matthews is, like I said, the versatility. Where Sean Brady looks good, I mean, that's the part that scares me. He's a great wrestler. The timing is there. But if this is a grinder fight, Jake Matthews can grind, and he can pull this upset off without question. Yeah. But he's going to have to avoid being on the bottom. He's going to have to avoid some of these tight grip submissions that are coming his way. Pick your shots. Stay away from, getting out-timed and getting outclassed either in speed or simply just being on the mat for too long. If this is a 3-round fight, you kind of want to make sure that you're ready to go in any area that you can win, because I just think that's going to be the toughest part. This could be a grueling fight if it doesn't end early.
And given their average times, I don't see it ending early. So, that takes us into our next bout. We got a light heavyweight bout between a couple nice UFC prospects. Another one that we touched on in our March prospect video is Carlos Ulberg, and he's taking on somebody.
City Kickboxing!
Test me. The gods love to test me on these names. Kennedy Nchukwu is how I'm going to roll with this one. So that's the fight upcoming here. Let's touch on Carlos Ulberg a little bit. Impressive win on Dana White Contender Series. Showed very impressive, jab, counter punches. Has a lot of kickboxing in his arsenal. He's making his UFC debut this Saturday. Really looking forward to seeing what he can do, against the African Savage here.
Well, it's crazy just how many prospects have fallen via submission to Paul Craig, right? It's just funny that, let's go with Zichku, Kennedy, if you will. He falls really pretty much in that list too, right? That fight was just hilarious to watch in some ways. Constant eye pokes. He ended up getting a point taken away from him. And Paul Craig finished that fight within like 30 seconds of it ending. So, despite the point being taken away, there was a chance that Kennedy could even win that on points, even with that point taken away. But unfortunately, the guy got caught twice. He actually got out of the first triangle, then he got caught again, and that one got caught up tight, and he did not get out. So it's little things like that where, if he's able to stand on the feet, the one thing I didn't like is pace. I think that when you're fighting a guy like Carlos Ulberg that's training with guys like Kaikar France and Israel Adesanya and Riddle, all these guys, man, Brad Wells is another massive striker from that camp, right? I think when you look at all those boys, Shane Young didn't have the, debut that we thought he might, but they definitely have that really good technical, pick your shots. And I love the defensive striking that Israel brings to the table. And if we see that from our boy here, I think that's going to be something to really watch. We saw him just dominate on the Dana White Contender Series. And that's, like I said, right, that NBA comparison where I think he just proved that, yes, he does belong, but now you're going to start seeing some real competition, especially on the feet, right? And I'm really excited to see what he can do. And because these are the kind of guys where you don't get much tape, right? So now if I can hopefully see him fight for maybe 10 to 15 minutes, I would love that.
Yeah, for sure. Even in digging through some of his past fights, I did watch the Kennedy Darko Stosic one. And to be honest, I felt like, that was a kind of a lackluster fight. It was headlined by, a bunch of low blows, unfortunately. But the thing that stood out to me was Kennedy's height, reach advantage, and how he was able to just keep Darko at bay, not get himself caught in anything that would be dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny, right? Like even in the Paul Craig fight, it was like very similar situations. Just there's a lot of refereeing that had to get done, but I just think that he needs to be way more versatile if he wants to keep it on the feet, right? I just felt like he wasn't throwing much, and I felt like he was waiting for Paul Craig to throw first, who is very much working on his striking and is primarily a grappler. So it was just interesting to see the game plan approach there. I think that if he was more active on the feet, moved around a bit, Paul Craig was looking exhausted in that fight. The fact that even happened is, I think, a pretty crazy feat on both ends. But I think that if I'm, Kennedy trying to win this fight, I'm trying to get in close and avoid any power shots and take this to the ground and up against the fence as much as I possibly can. Force this guy to, utilize any of the grappling he's been working on. But we know that he's a striker, so why not exploit those other areas? And I mean, let's be real, man. If I'm Carlos, I know what I'm looking for. Those openings. And if this guy's feet can't keep up with me, if his hands are too slow, I'm gonna find my time and I'm gonna find my shot.
Yeah. And honestly, he did look slow in that Darko fight. So, let's touch on the line here. What's your guess here?
I'm gonna have to go with Carlos Ulberg, and it's funny. I want to give him a realistic line, but now that I heard the Sean Brady line, I almost have to give him something similar. I'm gonna give him a minus 250. I originally had a minus 200, but I'll go minus 250.
Okay, I actually had him at a minus 200 as well. We are pretty high on this guy as a prospect, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. If we look at the line, I was close. I was close to a showcase showdown. Very close, but minus 188 is the current line, plus 162 on Kennedy.
Oh wow, 12 points. That's pretty damn close. He'll get there soon, Padawan. I think it's very clear to see who the favorite is here from a Vegas perspective, but at the same time, I see openings. I see areas where, from a game plan perspective, watching Carlos fight, at the end of the day, I'm not standing there and trying to bang. I'm not trying to open myself up to getting head kicked in the head. It's just not smart. So I think there's very, very good ways for each fighter to go about this. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. The line kind of dictates it could get pretty close too.
Absolutely. And so that takes us into our next bout. We got a flyweight bout between the dude who shares your son's name and our, quote unquote company here, Kai Kara France. And he's taking on Rogerio Bontorin. Is that how you say his name?
Bontorin, yeah.
Bontorin, absolutely. So, for Kai, he's really dominated the scene lately. He has 2 losses in his last 11, both to the Brandons, who have really made their way up this weight class, right? We did see Brandon Moreno take on the champ and give it to him all he could. So, these are some credible losses here. What did you see in those losses that stood out to you for Kai?
I feel like my boy just loves to rush in there, I'm not surprised. He just loves to, he gets hungry for the finish. He gets hungry to put on a show. In the Brandon Royval fight, both of them were kind of like that. And it was kind of a may the best man win scenario there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And let's be real, even with the way he kind of fights, he still has never been finished via strikes. Or I think it's been 10 years or something like that since he's been finished. So, the kid's maintained his chin despite how much he can get hit. He's susceptible to grappling though, right? Like I think that if I'm taking on anyone from that camp, that has to be your mentality, right? Like at the end of the day, they all seem to be very, very well skilled strikers, and the takedown defense is there. That's the best part is they know how to avoid the takedowns. But at the end of the day, if you have to pick your battles, right? Would you rather exploit the takedown defense, or would you rather stand there and strike with these boys? So for me, I really like this fight to kind of see where it goes, because both guys are going to want to swing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was the thing that stood out to me from his last loss was that, the ground game needs a little bit of work, right? It seemed to give him a lot of trouble in this one, but this is going to be a striking battle. You know what I mean? Like these boys are going to throw. So I'm excited about 100%. This one. Rogerio, he has a 16-2 record. Like, that is insane. He did lose his last one to Ray Borg, which was pretty telling, but he does have a versatile game and very ferocious punches from what I saw.
I mean, the thing with these kinds of records, right? They're kind of padded in the beginning. Like, even if you scroll down, I have like the combined record in his first like 6 fights is like 6 wins and almost 12 losses. You know what I mean? So like, this is a terrible record here. I just think that it's a little bit padded, but at the same time, like, you kind of look at the way he's accomplished against pretty big names, right? In the grand scheme of things. So I think that even with his UFC experience, that's the part that I'm really excited about. Dana White Contender Series, another one of these guys making their wave. So I just want to see what excitement he brings to the table, because both these guys are going to want to strike. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like I said, if you're finding that it's too overwhelming, or Kai Kara-France's too quick, or the other way around, right? You're going to have to figure out something else to do. You're not gonna win the fight.
Absolutely. This is a real tough one to call, man. I truly have no idea which way it's really going to go. So I'm going to take a stab at the line, and I'm going to give Kai Kara-France a slight favorite, maybe a minus 120.
Yeah, I have mine a little bit higher, and it's only because like that 90% takedown defense coupled with just how well he can put his combos together. You know, he throws in volume. And honestly, Ben Turner in his last fight, I think, was taken down more than 10 times, like well over 10 times, something like that. So, or no, maybe I'm exaggerating. It's probably close to it, but I think Kai deserves a line closer to 150. So I'll go with Kai at 150. It's probably going to be higher from a Vegas perspective. He's a city kick.
Oh, baby. Where's my boy? What happened? Where's my boy?
Who got him? I don't know who got him.
You nailed it.
Bing, bang, boom. Oh, chickity boom, chickity boom, chickity boom. That's the side. That's naming my son Kai. That's all that is.
I was gonna say, those are the Kai sounds.
Yeah. That is the Kai sounds. I naturally did the Kai sounds. It's my boy. Let's get it.
Well done. So minus 150. We got plus 125 on Bontorin here. So exactly kind of where you expected it to be.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, right? I think if he showed a bit more of that, like he avoids the takedown so well, but maybe not take so many damaging shots. You know, he's such a good striker that he's constantly looking for the kill, but that's what makes it exciting. And that's why I'll always watch his fights, right? I'm a fan, win or lose. Like, I'm down to watch the kid fight any day of the week. And I think that's what we're going to watch. A very exciting fight.
For sure. Best of luck to both those guys. It's going to be a great one. And that takes us into our next fight. It's a women's strawweight bout between Livinha, the Brazilian gangster, Souza, and Amanda Lemos. This girl is truly a badass.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Man, dude, has no problem flipping the bird during face-offs. She is truly living up to the name of that Brazilian. So, we did see her beat Ashley Yoder, in 2020. Man, rewatching that one, safe to say that one could have gone either way.
I mean, it's just one of those fights where there's just not much happening. So you're really just trying to gauge like who's got control of the fight, who's landing more when they're separated and trying. I think there was moments where Ashley did try to kind of utilize some of her work against the fence, but there was a lot of times where I was just like watching them really, pummel and try to get the most opportune clinch position to try and get something to happen. And, it's funny because for me, Amanda Lemos is just such a monster in the clips that I've seen. So it's one of those things when I'm comparing the two, it's hard.
The first note I have here is a true beast.
Yeah, she's really proved herself, right? And Leslie Smith is her only loss. I think after that, Miranda Granger and Mizuki's is a really good win. I watched most of that fight, and frankly, in any point where she got too close, she was able to handle the striking, deliver some back, get it back into a good place. I just think that she's a really dominant fighter. She's powerful. I like the way she strikes. I mean, that's what makes me excited for the girl fights on this card because, frankly, they're really, really technically sound and have some good power.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it, but that versatility is what really stood out in watching highlights of her as well, right? I did watch that Mizuki fight, and man, the amount of times she was clinched up against the fence in defense mode and was able to turn that into a takedown. It was nuts, man.
Yeah, and it's crazy. In the beginning, she dropped her, right? Like, she dropped her real good with that power in the first round. So, and it's funny because this is another fight. Like, let's jump into some stats because, frankly, they're a little mind-blowing. And I don't even want to take, because I don't feel like we even touched on Livinha that much, right? She actually has some pretty good wins. Like, her losses are Brianna Van Buren, Angela Hill via split decision. It's like these girls have only lost to good competition. And I think that it comes down to like where the fight takes place, because I think the standing battle, Amanda seems to have it, man. But I think if this fight does get close, if it gets a little bit technical, maybe Souza is able to pull something off. Maybe her striking can come into play maybe later in the fight. But early in the round, like Amanda just looks like such a monster, man. And she really does carry herself with like a lot of power. And that's what kind of, scared me the most. Like, this is what I wanted to show you. But when we talk about the grappling, these are Amanda's stats. In those 3 UFC fights, she's got 2.26 takedowns for every 15 minutes. And actually, Souza's really close to that. But the takedown accuracy and takedown defense are both 100%. So whenever she's wanted to take the fight to the ground, she's been able to. And whenever she's had to avoid the fight on the ground, she's avoided it. So little things like that stand out to me a lot. A lot of volume in her fight too, right? She did get hit a lot. When we talk about the Mizuki fight, I thought she got hit a plenty. And so that's when you talk about, like, are there areas in the striking game too where Souza can maybe sneak in some punches there and get what she needs to get off? Because I think Lemos is just going to come in there and just start firing. A lot of quick punches, a lot of heavy hooks. And I think it's going to be a fun fight, especially in that first round.
Yeah, we're really going to see Amanda come out and try and dictate the pace of this fight. So, let's jump into the lines here. I am going to give Lemos the favorite. Some of these ladies' lines ends up being all kinds of whack. So I'm going to go out on the limb here. Maybe say Lemos at a -300.
Okay, and so that's the thing, right? I think Souza did have success with the box against someone like Yoder. Question is, can she do it here? I think 300 is pretty high. I actually don't mind the line personally. I don't see an issue with it. But I think you got to give Souza a bit more credit based on the losses that she has and stuff like that. So I was actually going to go somewhere closer to the -200. And maybe that's more so my opinion then. But maybe Vegas is thinking like a bias today.
No, Vegas is definitely thinking like Suki today. This is a -175 actually. So even
my original line was -180.
Yeah, we're tired of seeing you win these showcase showdowns.
That's so good. I'm increasing my lines to not win them. It's cool. But like you said, right? It doesn't matter where that line at that last point, where once it's past 170, I think you're kind of dictating something there. And regardless of where the line falls after that, I just think that what you see on paper, what you see on tape is just looking too dominant. But when you look at the way Souza used her boxing against Ashley Yoder, the way she tried to kind of avoid too much of the ground, maybe she's able to kind of showcase some of that as well. You never know. We've seen worse things happen, right?
Absolutely. It can definitely go either way. And I think the line represents that. So, that takes us into our next bout. We got a flyweight bout between Tim Elliott and Jordan Espinosa.
Oh, the crazy man.
This was canceled. Yeah, this was a cancel. Exactly.
Oh, okay, you're ready, eh? You're ready to talk about some Tim Elliott. Just by that reaction, I can tell you're ready to talk about some Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott got something in my eye.
So, we were actually supposed to see this bout earlier this year, and it was canceled. But, Elliott, man, this guy gets all the real deal dudes right out the gate. And Royval, Askarov, the champ Figueiredo, unreal, man.
Well, Tim Elliott is a legend, right? Like he ended up winning the flyweight tough. So there was basically an entire tournament because Demetrius Johnson was so dominant that they had a tournament of flyweights to determine who should fight him next. Tim Elliott won that tournament to then fight Demetrius Johnson, and he put up a very good fight. I mean, it was an entertaining fight, And I think since then, to be honest, he's been a very credible flyweight fighter. He's a wild man for sure. And it's a very unorthodox style. And there's 2 guys on this card that stand out like that for me, him and Dominick Cruz. Both these guys are very unique. Their movement is very different. The way they hold their hands, the way they move their head, a lot of looping stuff, a lot of this kind of movement. And I think it really works for them, obviously. That's, for me, it comes down to, can Espinosa handle that? I think he's primarily a striker. I think he has, 3 submission wins, and all of them are by Darce choke. I think it's something weird like that. He's very, that's exactly it. It's everything else is decision. He likes to strike. He's a distance striker. I think if you're trying to be one of those basic, pot shotters with the kicks that come into play, things like that, a guy like Tim Elliott that's ready to bum rush you, push up against the fence, throw you all over the place on the ground. I think this is a fight where you can see Tim Elliott 100% use the striking only to get in as close as possible to be able to get this man to the ground. That's exactly what he's going to try to do,
It was interesting to see that his first 2 losses in the UFC for Espinosa were both via triangle choke as well, right? So it's not like he's not prone to being submitted as well.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing, right? So for me, when you talk about his wins, like their decisions or those 3 darts chokes. So for me, when you're submitting people with the same choke, it also means you're kind of like, that WWE style finisher. Like there is transitions, there's movements that get you to that spot. And when you practice something like that over and over again, you get really good at getting to that spot. Maybe it even takes you, if it takes you 4 to 5 different transitions or movements to get there, maybe you get to the point where you're actually doing it in maybe 3, you know what I mean? And the way you move your body, things like that. So it's just interesting to see that that's where his wins have come from, because when you look at his losses, like they're primarily decisions, submissions as well. So I think that's where, for me, Tim Elliott's versatility here just seems to really dictate the fight,
Yeah, and we actually saw, that versatility firsthand against Ryan Benoit, right? Dominant fight, won that one by unanimous decision, and you kind of saw that versatility come into play. So I'm really excited to see this crazy man get back in the ring for sure.
And that Ryan Benoit was basically the tale of 2 crazy men, right? That's what made it so good. And the thing is, it was a unanimous decision, but the scorecards weren't like 30-27, 30-27. I'm pretty sure they were actually like, the rounds were pretty close and stuff like that. So that's what makes me really excited to watch him fight, because that's what makes Tim Elliott so fun, right? He keeps himself in the fight, whether the other guy's, a world champion or, Ryan Benoit trying to make a mini comeback. Like, it's a really great fight, and he did what he had to do to win. Like, even when you go look at the stats, man, like these guys threw some serious punches, like, about 100 a round. It's pretty amazing to see. And Tim Elliott, like we just talked about, right? He landed only one of his, how many attempts? 13 attempt takedowns. So he's definitely going to be trying to get this man to the ground.
That is wild, man. So, let's jump into the lines. I do think this is going to be a pretty tight one. So, I'll let you go first here, but who do you see being the favorite here?
I have to give Tim Elliott the favorite. I think that from a paper perspective, he's had the edge here. He's looked like a top 5, top 10 flyweight throughout the latter portion of his career. So I'm going to go with my man here, Elliott, with a -125.
Okay, I was going to go a little bit higher. I was going to say somewhere around -140, -150 for Tim Elliott.
I thought you were going to go Jordan, actually. That's interesting.
Nah, man, I got to roll with the crazy man.
Crazy man time. And to be honest, I would actually go way higher.
It's actually a pick 'em. -1.
Wow. All right. That -120 is a lot. And see, it's funny, right? Because I kind of agreed with your line from a different standpoint. But again,
an
like
analysis
these fights,
perspective.
Well, like the real deal comes down to just, the wild man aspect. Like if this guy can pick his shots, Tim Elliott is going to get picked apart for 3 rounds and lose a decision. That's basically what Vegas is probably thinking. But it's just too close to tell, because Tim Elliott can also wrestle this man to the ground and grind him out, maybe even get a submission, ground and pound, things like that.
Yeah. No, that's going to be an entertaining one for sure. Really looking forward to that one. So actually really looking forward to the next one coming up here. So let's dive right into that one. Wow. Can't believe this is actually on the prelims. We got a flyweight bout here between Joseph Benavidez and Askarov. Insane, man.
Crazy, man.
Two dudes we've definitely been chatting about quite a bit. So let's talk about the beefcake first. He was on choice of nickname, by the way. Not sure why you would want to choose that, but this guy was on fire until he met Figueiredo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was just dealing with dudes, and even in that Figueiredo fight, I watched both versions of it, round 1 and round 2, but in that first one, man, like, it was crazy to see how he was able to slip away from some of these submissions. You know what I mean? Like, that one could have been ended a lot sooner. Yeah, and slippery, man. He's so slippery.
I think he's phenomenal.
He's so entertaining. Round 2 of the battle wasn't, as close. He eating a lot of shots prior to getting submitted. Figueredo really came to play on that one. But, tell us a little more about Benavidez or the beefcake.
Well, I mean, like, let's be real. He's an absolute legend, right? Like, everyone really... Like, that's the thing about Joseph Benavidez, right? If you analyze this sport from a historian's perspective, Joseph Benavidez is actually he's a true GOAT. I mean, I hate to say it, but his record shows it. His first 4 losses are 2 to Dominick Cruz, who was basically a generational champion. Demetrius Johnson, twice generational champion. So, this man was 18-2 when that happened. Sorry, 19-3 when that happened. And falls to 19-4 and then beats Tim Elliott, Dustin Ortiz, Moraga, Bogatina. This guy just deals with the entire flyweight, bantamweight divisions. And just like the flyweight division, to be honest, was a handful of guys for so long. That's why they wanted to get rid of it. People were bored of it. People were bored of Benavidez being a bridesmaid, but never a bride. People got bored of seeing Henry Cejudo learn how to win after losing that split decision to Benavidez and just go on an absolute tear. It's kind of crazy.
Wow, that is nuts, man.
After the Demetrius loss, like that was it, man. And then he ended up wins it. He wins. Like, he just goes on another tear. Then he beats TJ, and it's over, right?
What a beast, man. And so, on the flip side, we got Askarov, somebody we've touched on a few times, not to be confused with Askar. Definitely have made that mistake before.
Not that anyone is going to be convinced of that anytime soon, because the man didn't even show up for his fight.
Ain't that the truth? I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he didn't show up. So, Askarov has yet to lose, which is crazy. 13-0-1 record. And that one draw came against Moreno, right?
Not man, bro.
And so,
one of my favorites.
That shows you the level of fighter that Askarov is. And what a great bout this is going to be. Why is this on the prelims? I don't understand.
I really believe it's because you have 3 title fights that have to take the cake there. Yeah, 100%. And then you do have guys like Rakic and Santos, who are basically title challengers, right? And let's be real, Makhachev is a main card draw.
Yeah, for sure. So
there's your answer, Paisan.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this main card should have like 8-10 fights.
Well, let's be honest here. This prelim card might be one of the best prelim cards we'll see this year either. Altogether, right?
Absolutely. Fingers crossed that none of these get canceled. Because
why you gotta even say that? Yo? Why you gotta even say that? I was like thinking it earlier.
Some positive juju out.
I was like trying to think about it earlier. I'm like, no, none of them are gonna fall. They're all gonna be healthy. COVID doesn't even exist anymore. Everyone's good. Like, they're gonna show up. All 15 fights are gonna roll out. Let's
hope, man. Fingers crossed. So Askarov, he's looked pretty dominant in his last few fights against Tim Elliott, Pantoja. Question for you. He wins this one, wins Benavidez. Do you see him getting, a title shot? Obviously, Moreno's probably going to get his rematch here.
100%. So Moreno's already scheduled to get his rematch. I believe the winner of that, if Askar wins this, like that's where you have to feel bad for Benavidez, right? What's the problem with him losing to the champion twice, 3 times? You can't give him a third shot.
Yeah, I agree.
Benavidez has chosen to literally lose has basically lost championship fights, destroyed a division, lost 2 championship fights, destroyed a division, and then lost championship fights. Poor guy, bro. And there was even this this thing about at the end where they do this UFC, there was like a documentary style filming that was going on post fight, and it was like a big thing. Because I don't know if you know who Megan Olivi is. She does a lot of she's the girl that does a lot of the talking. She looks kind of tiny. Yeah. So they're together, and she actually was like really emotional when they brought it up. She, like, not emotional, but it's like she could not watch it. Like, she was kind of like very I don't need to watch it. I live through it. It's just like I watch my husband's dreams get shattered, but we picked ourselves up and kind of went back to our home, happy, healthy. And went on with our life. And that's part of being in the game,
Damn, that's a pretty cool story. I had no idea. Glad you shed some light on that one for sure. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like you said, it's unfortunate, right? This guy will defeat everybody else and kind of start losing his championship shots. But
yeah,
this
like
is a
Kenny
big one
Florian
for
was like
Askar.
that. There's a lot of people like that in the entire UFC history. Like that they're still great to me. They're the Dan Marinos. You know what I mean? Like they are who they are. They all go down as some of the best we'll ever see. And even this fight, right? Like I just love the fact that this flyweight division just seems like this close knit community. Like even one of those like compounds where it's just like a gated off community where just like these little guys are all just like having a little fun together and just fighting each other here once in a while, because it just seems to be this one cool revolving circle, right? Everyone's been waiting for Askarov to get back. He gets a fight against Joseph Benavidez. Good on Benavidez for just grabbing this fight, right? Like he's coming off a pretty big loss.
Yeah.
He's such a gamer, right? Team alpha male, Uriah Faber, like, training partner back in the day. All these guys are, they come to play, man.
Gamers, man. Yeah.
They're always a fun camp for me to watch. And I do feel like they always get a bad name for being like the meatheads and all that kind of stuff with Cody Garbrandt, some of the funny clips that he's got. But again, they're just workhorses, man. They love that wrestling. They love that guillotine. And they've advanced really well with their striking and power, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very impressive. I'm really excited about this one. Let's try and guess the line here. I'll let you go first here.
I wanted to ask you, did you know that Askarov was deaf? I don't know if you knew that.
What?
Yeah, he's deaf.
No way. I did not know that. That is nuts.
I thought I should tell you that. Yeah, so Askar is definitely, he is deaf. And the one thing I love about this fight is it's another, classic case of like the American wrestling versus like Dagestani. I love it. I'm really looking forward to this fight. I would put this fight pretty high on my list. And if I'm being completely honest, I just hope the chins hold up, because I do want to see these guys kind of battle it out. I do think that, I think Askar has really, really good first round game. But in some of the fights that we just talked about, to be honest, the fight ends up really close. Like we talked about, the Brandon Moreno fight. That's basically what happened. Moreno is such a resilient fighter. I think if heart was measured, he's been in the top 5 on my list in the UFC pound for pound. And even in that fight, the way he finished that third fight on the man's back, like the guy's a beast.
Absolutely, man. That's crazy information to know. And I'm curious, how that would affect a man, right? You're able to shut out all the noise, right? You're not going to get distracted by what people are saying or crowds or anything like that. Obviously, there's no crowds right now, but all that stuff. But how do you communicate with your coaches mid-fight as well, right?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there is some kind of a signaling with it. That's something we could probably look into more. But I would even say like, at some point, it's got to be reading lips, habit, that kind of stuff. I'm sure this guy has a game plan going in there, right? Like, let's be real. He is not listening. There's not an ounce of him that is by any chance doing that. He might have to look over and look for some hand indicators, things like that. But I think this is the kind of guy that has a fight style. And I think he knows what he's going in with the game plan. And he just knows how to execute. Clearly, he knows what he's doing. And for me, it's just more so if Benavidez can get away from those early rounds, man, we're going to be watching a very competitive fight for rounds 2 and 3, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really hope this one goes the distance, because both these guys are entertaining. So give me a stab at the line here.
So I have to go with Askarov, and I'm just going to finalize where I think it should be. Let's go Askarov with a minus 180.
Oh, I was going to say minus 170.
Let's get it. Go.
Getting too close to me, man. Getting too close to me.
Who's getting too close to who here?
I thought I'd try and get away with that one. Wow. Askarov is actually a minus 125 favorite, so it's pretty much a pick'em here.
It's great.
It comes in plus 100.
And I love that, man, because you do have to analyze Askarov's fights. I think there's a lot of hype behind him. But when you go into those later rounds, you see evidence. And the whole thing with Benavidez is if the chin can hold up in the early rounds, like the guy's got movement, the guy's got power. Like that those hands, man, they've dropped some mofos. So that's where be excited. This is going to be a very fun fight. And like you said, right, it has title implications in my opinion, because an Askarov win means he's basically beaten everybody. I actually want to talk about this. Like, I would actually consider this one of the best storylines in the UFC, right? Like the Figueiredo Moreno saga. Then we go into the Moreno Askarov saga, and they get to duke it out. But then you also have Pantoja, who has such a recent history with Moreno. Benavidez, who's ready to take on anybody new that's willing to give him a shot in that realm of championship caliber fighters. So, like, the guy's the greatest gatekeeper the UFC is seeing right now, because he's just fending off everybody from that flyweight division of getting a chance. But then there's these guys who, just like I said, this close-knit community of revolving fighters that keep fighting each other.
It really is, man. It really does seem that way in the respect they have for each other. So definitely looking forward to that one. It's going to be a great one on the prelim card. And the next two that are kind of highlighting the prelim card are amazing as well. So let's dive right into those. The next one up is a bantamweight bout between Kyler Phillips and Yadong Song. Phillips, a dude that we've touched on in our prospect video as well. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. He's very high on that list, and deservedly so, right? He burst onto the UFC scene, great bouts against Gabriel Silva and Cameron Else, and really a dominant performance last time against Else. Great ground game, punches, solid leg kicks, kind of showed that he could do it all, right? So, we've touched on Phillips before. What do you kind of have to say about this guy?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to kind of just transition because I feel like we've touched on Phillips. If you want to see what we kind of said in detail, by all means, go check out the prospect watch video that we put out, top 10 prospects going into March for the UFC. I think in conjunction with MMA Sucka and my man Jeremy Brand, I will say that I think we said it. The Silva fight was really the more telling one, right? We saw him do so much in that fight. He looked really confident. He just looked the part. And you know what, man? He's going into a fight with an absolute monster. Like, I don't know if you took a really close look at Song's record and what it's insane. Like even the Cody Stamen.
I mean, let alone he's won 8 in a row. Insane.
Well, the Cody Stamen fight, right? Like, that was basically a draw. Yeah. It's insane that he fought Stamen's fight almost the way that Jimmy Rivera did, right? And that's how good he looked. This man might be one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC because no one's talking about him despite what he's accomplished. That's why even for me in this fight,
23 years old too. It's nuts.
It's insane. It's insane. His resume is just growing. But bro, he has a win over Chito Vera. Like that's a big deal.
Does he though? Does he?
Yeah, fair. I mean, fair. It's one of those things where you have to accept that at the end of the day, the record's the record. And you know what? Maybe that goes in accordance with what you kind of just said. I mean, should you be going and fighting Kyler Phillips after you just beat, my man Marlon Vera? Probably not. Yeah. So, he just fought fucking Aldo. I just, sorry, Aldo brings up that passion in me. Aldo! In any case, I just, when I see this man kind of get in there, put on those power strikes, like he's pedal to the metal kind of thing. And I believe the grappling defense-wise especially is all there. He looks very, very promising at that age. Fought all the right people so far. And I think Kyler Phillips, man, if I'm being honest, Kyler Phillips is the one with a really good opportunity here. I think he has a great chance to kind of, put on an amazing show against the guy who he's going to have a bit of a reach advantage of, and really, put himself in a much higher bracket in the UFC because, frankly, I would say Song is on the verge of, one win away, top 10 fighter, if not looking into top 5, fight. I think he looks the part. The thing about Kyler, right? We talked about it, movement. He's going to have really good movement. So if he can avoid this man just coming in and just throwing, because that's what he does, man. He likes to just get in there, throw those big body hooks, throw those big hooks to the head. Kyler likes to move, man. Kyler might even try to take this boy down and see what he can do on the ground because, frankly, you look at the grappling stats, and Song only has 61% takedown defense, but he can take people down at a 75% clip. So if I'm Kyler Phillips and I have that much of a versatile game, this is not a kid I want to stand there and bang with because this kid bangs. He bangs.
Yeah.
I ain't trying to
he's active himself, right? He's active himself, right? He moves a lot, in kind of what I've seen there. And so this is going to be a great one. I hope these dudes throw. Let's kind of take a stab at the lines here. I am going to take Yadong Song as the favorite here. Just based on history, resume, that kind of stuff. I am very high on Kyler Phillips as well. But let's give Song maybe a minus. Let's go minus 200.
Okay, I actually was a bit more generous to the Kyler Murray side, so I'll give you a chance to kind of play.
Kyler Murray, love it, love
Kyler
it.
Phillips, Kyler Phillips. I'm gonna give you the edge here to kind of take any line above that. So I'll actually play my line of a -175.
Man, sometimes, I wonder what happens here, man. Yeah. Show them in. Show them in.
No way.
As you can tell by my lackluster approach, that it definitely wasn't me who hit this line.
Wow.
-170 for Song here.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a big enough line that we know why. Does he deserve a bigger line? In our opinion, it seems like he does. But Vegas sees that the hype behind Kyler Phillips is real, and frankly, we maybe shouldn't even be calling it hype. We know the movement is good. We know that Song might even be able to see his butt on the ground for a little bit of this fight. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. But watch out for those power shots, man, because they're going to be flying.
And that takes us to our main event of the prelims, and man, it's going to be a dandy. We got a bantamweight bout between Dominick Cruz and our boy Casey Kenney here. One thing that stood out, Dominick Cruz, man, he should actually team up with the other Cruz for a modeling line, man. They have very similar Calvin Klein underwear pictures.
Cruz is like one of those guys where it's probably just they need to maybe do a retake or something. But I miss that guy. he just having him back in a fighter way is just such a great thing. I miss him.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like Siraj said, this guy did take a 4-year break after his loss to Garbrandt. He did return in 2020 only to fight Henry Cejudo. We all know about this man, what a beast he is. So,
and we just talked about these records that are really puffed, right? Look at this record, right? 22-3, and you look at the people. Well, and you look at the people that he's fought, right? Like we're talking about a bunch of guys who are 16-2 and 18-1 or whatever, but this man's 22-3 is some real shit. It's some real shit.
It's legit, eh? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so, let's touch on that Cejudo fight a little bit, rewatching that one. It seemed like he wasn't really able to handle the leg kicks as much as he kind of should have. It seemed like Cejudo really honed in on that aspect of it and really broke him down in that sense.
Well, I think Cejudo in general just became a better MMA fighter, right? Like the guy's an absolute workhorse. Like as much as cringeworthy he is, and as funny you think he is, the guy's an Olympic athlete. He's why I considered him one of the pound for pounds before he really even became a pound for pound, because you saw it. His learning ability and just how much he got better was probably my favorite part of the whole thing. I was a huge believer in him, and that's where, for me, if you lose to Henry Cejudo, to me, once again, I don't care how good you are, including Dominick Cruz, that's a very credible loss in this world, and that goes to show, right? Dominick Cruz's 3 losses, 2 of them came in his last 2 fights, where he's very much, still trying to keep it all together, but the man is known for how hard he trains, the amount of injuries he's taken. He even talked about going into that Cejudo fight, how he had like a blown shoulder and like a bunch of things that even required surgery, things like that. It was just a constant like broken bones he mentioned. And it was a short notice fight with 5 weeks of preparation. So at the end of the day, the man is just an absolute legend, Hall of Famer level fighter, probably the greatest bantamweight we might have ever seen. In the grand scheme of things, but yeah, he's a big deal in my opinion, and I think there's a big reason why he took the fight with Casey Kenney, right? Casey Kenney and him are from Tucson, Arizona, so he was saying how big reason he was like, kid's a good kid, he's from the same city as me, let's put Tucson on the map. What are the chances that 2 guys from Tucson get to fight on the same card? So I think it's pretty fun that both these guys are gonna have that opportunity to enjoy it together, right?
Yeah, that's really dope. I had no idea. So that's a pretty cool anecdote right there. And Casey Kenney, his name seems to keep popping up for us, right? He had a very active 2020 with 4 fights. He's won 3 in a row. Looking back at that last one that we touched on pretty heavily with Nathaniel Wood, that one really stands out. He dominated in that one. He really dictated the pace. He had a ton of energy, especially in that 3rd round when Wood was a little more tired. This guy just that machine was still going.
And that's where it's so funny, right? I anticipate this fight very much looking like 2 guys just really moving a lot. Like you're going to see just 2 guys moving a whole lot in the octagon when these 2 get in there, because if you look at the way Kenney even approached that fight in the third round, Nathaniel Wood was definitely taking shots, but I thought there was still an opportunity for both of them to even take that fight, even in the third. But yeah, like Kenney's pursuit, his ability to kind of just get on you. And Nathaniel Wood is a great striker, but I think Kenney's very much, showing that he can do it all. And even in that fight, at any point in time when he had to kind of showcase that, he really did.
Absolutely. And so, this one's going to be super tight. It's hard to pick a side on this one, I'll let you take a stab at the lean here. Where do you see the favorite being?
Yeah. So, 2-fight skid, Cody Garbrandt and Cejudo, right? For me, this man is basically saying that the top 10 are all credible fighters and could all be a champion on any given day, right? Legitimately fight 100 times for a championship. Maybe they squeeze one out. This is the first time Dominick Cruz has been on a prelim since 2014 when he fought Takemi Mizugaki. Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane?
That is nuts.
Like, I just can't believe it. I absolutely can't believe it.
And on any other given card, this is a main card fight. Let's be real here.
Yeah, to be honest with you, this could have headlined one of these cards we've been watching. But I'm going to still have to go with Cruz with the edge here. I believe that we're playing a public play. I will say that I actually do believe, and Dominick Cruz says it himself. He actually made the joke. I think Ariel Helwani was the one that said to him, a bunch of people are calling it bullshit, and oh my God, how dare you put Dominick Cruz on a prelim, or how dare you only give him Casey Kenney? He deserves this. And Dominick Cruz is like, yeah, well, there's a lot of politics behind it. I understand those politics, and I think it's actually a great opportunity to just showcase, some of the prelims and be that main event that goes into there. But the big thing for him is like, thanks guys. He made it seem like it was like a compliment of some kind that people would even think that, but he also kind of went along the lines of, but those people also kind of don't do fights and don't really know what's going on. And he was pretty honest about it. So that's kind of leading into my line, right? Like from a Vegas perspective, I'm still going to have to go with Cruz as the favorite because I don't see people giving up on him in that sense. But in lining up with Cruz, I do not believe people should be as outraged as they are, which is why I'll give them a line of -125.
Oh, man. I got to change mine now. I was actually, I'm going to go with the pick'em. I thought this would be a pick'em.
Yeah, that's perfectly. These lines, anything below -130 to me kind of dabbles around there anyway.
Dabbles, yeah. So let's see what the actual line here is. Wow. It is -125, but it's -125 for Kenney.
Yeah, so there you go, man.
It's pretty much a pick'em, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just funny, right? Because the Cruz is not lying to you guys, man. Kenney's a great fighter.
Yeah.
He's a great fighter. And I'm not surprised by that line at all.
This is going to be a tough one to call for sure. +100 on Cruz, that seems a little enticing.
Yeah, well, here's my big thing. I'm going to say, even from a lines perspective thing, I just want to see Cruz go into a fight as healthy as possible and come out of a fight as healthy as possible, with the notion that win or lose, potentially we get to see him fight one more time. The guy doesn't need the money.
Again, yeah.
We've seen him win belts. I've seen a Dominick Cruz version, bro, that I will keep in my memory bank for the rest of my life. If he enjoys fighting and we can keep seeing him stay healthy, that's his biggest issue, right? The guy just is an absolute workhorse. Being that good at something physical takes its toll, basically.
Of course. Yeah. Oh, hopefully we get to see some more Cruz after this one. And so that takes us right into the main card. Oh my God, I don't think I've seen a juicier main card before in my life. So very excited for this one. Kicking us off is a light heavyweight bout between two top contenders, man. We got Thiago Santos on one side and Aleksandar Rakic on the other. And let's touch on Thiago a little bit. What an absolute beast, man. Like, who are his most recent losses against? John Jones and Glover?
Who I think should be getting the next title shot.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And like, look at the level of fighting there, right?
Yeah.
And let's touch on that Glover fight, right? He seemed to be doing really well in that fight, especially on the feet, right? But the ground game, it just proved to be too much for Thiago.
I felt like he got tired too. I just think the thing with the Glover's style is if he can get past your strikes, he's going to get on you and he's going to ground and pound you. And if you don't give it to him, he's going to grab your neck or he's going to grab your arm. That's how Glover likes to fight. He loves boxing, but he's also such a good, like, in close fighter. You know, that's the thing about Glover that I absolutely love. And it's what keeps him in fights with guys who are like 6+ feet too, right? He just gets himself in there and does damage. And that's exactly what we saw. He even tired him out really well. Like, that was such a beautiful grinding fight. You know, I loved it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it has me pumped for this one as well, man. So, you know, Rakic on the flip side, right? He, you know, dominated Anthony Smith, right? Like that was a great fight. And man, it was crazy to see how slippery he is, man. How he was able to get out of some of those grapples is just nuts.
I totally agree. Because the thing with Rakic, I just felt like, you know, everyone's just so ready to praise him for striking. He's such a beautiful striker, volume striker, godlike power. You know, he's just putting guys like to absolute just devastation. If you're not getting knocked out, you're definitely feeling some serious pain, and that's where, like, you know, it's just such a good balance of big names with the Santos side. You know, those two losses, you can't have more credible losses in the light heavyweight division, in my opinion. Those are two of the most credible losses you could ever hope for. And then you talk about Rakic, whose striking stats are phenomenal, right? 89% takedown defense, and the guy just throws at a clip of 4.66 per minute and only takes 1.99 shots. So, like, he's a pretty good striker, but he likes to lunge. He just goes in there and he just throws for power. So he's kind of crazy. And Thiago Santos has power himself. Like, he likes to throw body kicks. He's got really powerful legs, you know. And so for me, it's like, if he wants to try and keep the distance and power, like, attack those legs and really wear him down, you know, that's a great strategy for Santos. And maybe even, you know, once he gets him a bit tired or gets his legs a little wobbly, like, take him to the ground, start using some of that jiu-jitsu. I think these are two guys that are going to be able to showcase the striking, but maybe it's the rest of the game that might be able to help them out. Both guys definitely don't like going to the ground anyway.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you know, those lunging punches really stood out to me as well, right? They bring a lot of power behind them, but they also, you know, open you up a little bit as well. And let's see if Santos can kind of take advantage of that.
Well, it's vice versa, right? I think for both guys, it's just when you have strikers that are looking to be technical, it comes down to who makes the first mistake, right? The thing about Rakic is that I do think that he goes a bit crazy, and when you look at the fights that Santos has been in, I mean, he's dealing with some pretty great fighters, mind you. The John Jones that we know and love from before to the John Jones that Thiago Santos faced, I believe, are two different fighters. So, in the grand scheme of things, you have to take that with a great assault. But at the same time, he's been at the top of this division for quite some time, and we saw him make the move pretty quickly. He did it. He did it pretty well, and you know, he even got himself into the title picture. So I think Rakic is taking the right fight here, but it just comes down to who's the better striker and potentially who might even exploit some of the grappling or tire somebody out and keep the work going in that way.
Or kind of see and exploit who makes that first mistake. So, you know, where do you see the Vegas line landing on this one?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said I think it's tough to see really any real mistakes from a striking standpoint. I just think it's going to be power related, and I think Rakic right now has just all the juice flowing in his direction. So I'm going to go with a -200 for Rakic here.
Okay. My initial lean was that, you know, it might be a little closer in terms of odds. I do think Rakic will be the favorite here. So I'm going to go with a -140 for Rakic.
Sounds good.
What did you said? -200?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Yeah, this landed right in between our two, like to the T. -170 for Rakic.
And it's a perfect line, right? It lines up with the thought process here. And Santos could even be riding some of that good juju that he had with Yana Kunitskaya. His girl just put on a great showing in the last card. So, you know, I'm pretty excited to see maybe he can bring some of that good fortune into his fight.
Absolutely. At a +140, that is very enticing for sure.
I mean, but Rakic is a monster. And if you're looking at the fights, you know, every line if I can remember correctly, I mean, there's no real heavy favorites that much. I mean, every line seems to be within -200. So enjoy the fights, guys. Enjoy the fights.
Yeah. Also, why it lines up to being such a great card, man. And so, you know, that takes us into our next fight. I think, you know, non-title fight. This is the one, obviously, I'm going to be most excited about for sure. We got a lightweight bout between Islam Makhachev and Drew Dober. You know, names that we've, you know, heard and been around for a very long time. So, you know, look at Makhachev's record, man. I'm not sure, the credibility of this, but at 18-1, that says something, does it not?
Oh yeah, but even the one is a knockout by Adriano Martins, who is a UFC fighter veteran. So, yeah, I mean, the thing is, these guys are all elite, so they all come from the same camp. Khabib is always raving about how he's better than him, and I don't think he is. Brother-in-law is always watching those, AKA, videos out from their camp, and there's evidence to suggest that the. If there's any guy that's almost too humble to the point where it's almost sickening because he's just willing to say anything for anyone, Khabib is definitely showing that level of commitment. So it's like, take that with a grain of salt too, right? I just think Khabib is just on a different planet than most fighters. So yeah, like, let's be real, wrestling on point. Like he's fundamentally going to be one of the best wrestlers we see in this division, period. What we missed the most, right? Is there a more anticipated fight? To be honest, like, this man hasn't fought, I believe, since 2019. Is that right? 2019.
2020. Yeah, 2020 just had canceled bouts, and something else that stood out to me with that was that this will probably be the first fight without Khabib's dad as well, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like, all these guys seem to be from that same camp, but I would say that at this level, like, I'm curious if Khabib's going to be in this corner. I would expect him to kind of be there too, right? Because these guys are very close. Like, he trains with Cormier. Like, these guys are all boys. So I'm kind of hoping to watch Cormier call this fight. I think he's going to have fun doing it. For me, it's like, look at the canceled fights, right? It would have been a Dos Anjos fight or even an Alexander. And I think the Alexander Hernandez-Drew Dober fight kind of lines up, right? Because those two fought. Drew Dober won that one. And Drew Dober's getting the fight. Makhachev now. So I think it's fair to both guys, right? Because you can make the assumption that Makhachev, despite not fighting since 2019, but having all the hype in the world, is still getting a Drew Dober on the come up and is a massive name for him to be able to kind of take that faster road, to the next level in terms of rankings and all that.
Yeah, and man, like, this guy has some ridiculous versatility, it seems, man. He can literally do anything. He has some crazy counters, uppercuts, knees to the face, can kind of do it all,
He's such a Muay Thai fighter. He's such a good kickboxer. And I think that's where Makhachev just has to be really careful, right? I think Drew Dober's very much going to be, studying where these takedowns come from. If there's any shots that he can land knee-wise, elbow-wise, aiming down, that kind of stuff. Because like I said, Adriano Martins was able to knock him out too, even in those 19 fights. So for me, I know what Islam Makhachev is going to be doing in this fight, right? And his numbers are phenomenal, right? 93% takedown defense. He still lands his 68% in terms of takedowns landed. And I love the 72% striking defense. He seems to avoid the shots as much as possible. But again, I think that's also a huge factor of maybe trying to go in for the shots and get the fight to the ground, stuff like that. Drew Dober is going to have the footwork to be able to kind of avoid maybe in the early parts when he has all his energy, but Makhachev's going to grind. He's going to grind until he gets it. And Drew Dober's going to have to keep him at a distance, keep chopping those legs up, try to get some big punches to the body. Even, you've seen him knocked out once, at least you can see if that's doable again.
For sure. And Drew's no joke either. You touched on that fight with Hernandez where, he did humble him pretty intensely, but that last loss is kind of what stood out to me, right? Against Dariush, we refer to him as the Terminator here. But, he looked great in that fight too, man. And to be honest, he seemed to actually have control of that fight until the end where he did get submitted.
Yeah, it's usually around Terminator 2 where they have to, he becomes a good guy and things just kind of go all, he has to save the world, basically. That's basically what happens usually. And yeah, are you kidding me? This guy always seems to have a new switch to turn on when it comes to Beneil Dariush. So, when you look down his entire all of the names that he's lost to, we know. And so that's where I think for him, he's going to now be considered a veteran of the sport at that 23-9, despite only being 32. He's in his prime. He is a veteran of the sport. And I think he has the ability to surprise, A part of me believes that Vegas might have this as one of the highest favorites on the list. But I still think this is going to be a lot closer than people think. I think it's going to be pretty high. It has to be from a Vegas.
All right, well, hit me with your line here.
I think Makhachev has to be a minus 275, probably.
Wow.
The hype is just so high. I feel like it's just everybody's been waiting for him to fight. Because I just think it's one of those things where you have to look at it this way. If you give someone a line for Makhachev at minus 200, do they bet it up? I think so. I believe people are waiting for this man to get back in there. And I don't know if enough people know what Drew Dober has been capable of lately.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my guess is going to be somewhere closer to a pick'em. As I was just doing my analysis and I saw this as a very tight fight. So I'm going to go Makhachev as a minus 150. Given your analysis, I might be very wrong here, but let's check.
Maybe I am.
Nope, you are. You actually undershot it slightly. So
I
you're
knew it.
right. Makhachev is getting that huge favorite.
My guess was he's the biggest favorite. Yeah, there you go. My Vegas guess was he'd be the biggest favorite on the card. So you can't F with hype.
You really cannot, man. Minus 334 is his current line. Drew Dober comes in at plus 250 underdog. I think it's going to be a lot tighter than people expect.
100%, man. That's what we say. Vegas sometimes is out of their mind, but at the same time, if Makhachev can walk through those punches and is just sitting on top of this man waiting for his best opportunity, then we know why things are the way they are.
Yeah. And like you said, they got to hedge their risk too, right? You see an enticing line for Makhachev, you're probably going to bet it up. So.
Yeah, because that's what I said, right? Even for me, my original line was in the minus 300, but even I feel like Dober can't be even bet up that high. But from a Vegas perspective, even I undershot that, you know what I mean? So it's just crazy to see how well that can play in the lines. It's crazy to me.
For sure. And you know what time it is now? It's championship time. Oh my goodness.
Three of them.
As if we got three of them, man. Are you kidding?
And as if the first one is Petr and Aljamain. This, I feel like, is one of those things where people are in the third period and they leave because they think they just watched the last minute of the period and it was maybe a 1-goal game, but then someone just tied it. So then you get to watch Amanda Nunes. But then there was a second overtime. And then it's holy shit. You know what I mean? And meanwhile, these guys in the cab.
The definition of continuous.
Yeah, men's are in a cab on the way home and oh my God, what is this push notification I'm getting?
Safe to say I've done that before in my life. But let's not touch on that one. So we got a bantamweight championship bout here between Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling. Wow. Honestly, man, since we started doing this, we have mentioned Aljamain Sterling so many times, and I have yet to see him fight. So honestly, I'm so excited for this one.
You didn't watch the Corey Sandhagen
I don't believe
fight.
We've seen him fight, right?
I thought maybe you saw the Corey Sandhagen fight.
Oh, yes. That is where I have seen him for sure. But man, the amount this guy's name gets brought up, I'm excited to see him back in the ring for sure. So,
Funk Master.
Since we're talking... Yeah, I was going to say, since we're talking about the Funk Master, let's continue on that, right? So he has won 5 in a row. You mentioned versus Sandhagen recently. And, his work on the ground, man, it's just so good, It just shocks me, man. He didn't give Sandhagen room to breathe,
And it came from getting in real close, right? He did not give Corey a single second to think on his feet. When you give Sandhagen any time to think, the guy is a cerebral fighter. When he's picking his shots, when he's judging his range, when he's throwing these kicks to see where he can throw his next 3 shots, that's primarily what he's doing. So when you give him that time, he's planning your demise. And in Aljamain's case, he's like, well, no, you're not planning my demise. Let me just bum rush you right now to the point where you have no idea what you can do because I'm way too quick right now and you're not going to be able to defend me. And that's exactly what he did. When you look at this fight, it really comes down to the classic case of, the striker versus the grappler, because this is the purest form of the MMA version. And I think this is I know Adesanya and Jan is a great fight, but without question, this is my most anticipated title fight in the UFC, bar none. It's
wow.
Oh, yeah.
High praise.
Well, yeah, we saw what Petr Yan did to Aldo, right? And Aldo just gets fights. Aldo's that kind of a legend. Yo, Aldo, we just need a guy to step in at 170. Can you do it, man? It's yo, give me a week. So it's just one of those things where I just think I really want to see Petr Yan fight one of these guys that are at this new level. Because even the Jimmy Rivera fight, right? People were talking about how, even Jimmy had some really nice moments in that fight. So I think that this Aljamain fight is a big, big, big deal. I think it's a big deal for both of them because if Petr Yan beats Aljamain Sterling, you'd have to assume that, Corey's well on his way. And I don't know if it's it could very well mean an Aljamain rematch. And I think that's a great fight for Aljamain if he comes out of this on the losing end. But at the same time, think about it this way. He beats Petr Yan and, Corey's one of the best bantamweights on the planet right now, and he's proving it other than that fight against Aljamain. So again, could we be seeing one of these little revolving doors happen when the guys are just this good? I think Cody Garbrandt is trying to have a equal say in all of this, but he seems to be willing to flirt between the 125s and 135s just to see where he can maybe get his bread. You know what I mean? I think there's some hungry ass mofos at 135, and it's one of those divisions where you just can't willy-nilly kind of find your way there. Are you familiar with The Office?
Of course.
Yeah. So do you remember the scene when Dwight is there? They're on some kind of vacation or a getaway, and there's a meme where Dwight is talking to someone, and Angela just comes up behind him. And he gets scared, and he gets all. Yeah. So the meme says the entire UFC bantamweight division is Dwight. And Angela is TJ Dillashaw.
Wow.
It's really good. And so with that, TJ Dillashaw is another guy, he's on the cusp of making his return. Like, keep an eye on this 135, 125. Like, I think the 125 has already found itself its own circus. Like, you don't need to mix and match right now. This is a very well-built circus for both weight classes. So, keep an eye on these two divisions because, my word, they're looking phenomenal.
Oh, man. And this fight is going to dictate that division so intensely.
Yeah, because Petr Yan is such a great boxer, right? The boxing that he brings to the table is where, because Aljamain is basically saying, yeah, I dare you, come, bring that boxing because I'm going to take you to the ground. And vice versa, Petr Yan is basically trying to fight like Khabib and say, I don't give a shit what you think you can do to me. I'm coming for that ass.
Quoting the Black Beast there, eh? Clapping those cheeks, man.
You know it, baby.
Amazing. So, who do you see being the favorite in this championship bout?
And it's funny, I think in these cases, like I actually, this might be the closest one where I want to do a pies pick'em, but I think I am going to have to go with Yan from a Vegas perspective. I think there's enough of an edge for Vegas to stick with Yan and say, give him the minus 135.
Okay. I was, pretty much in this similar boat, so I'm just going to go with a pick'em here. I do think Aljamain is a very formidable opponent for Petr Yan, so I do think this one is going to be fairly close, which seems to be the theme of this card. But what was your guess?
Minus 135 for Yan.
Oh, where's my man?
Are you kidding right now? Woo!
Show.
So
minus 138 is the
Jesus Christ! Pies. You're building a head here. I can't even tell you. But one thing I'm going to say is even when you're analyzing lines, you're almost representing kind of what we would think. Because you're just coming out every single time with a line that's basically within 30 basis points of a pick'em, unless it's like the caliber of Valentina Shevchenko fighting me.
What do you think that line would be?
Minus 10 million and counting.
Oh man, that is too good. You might have to use some seduction techniques to get out of that one.
Oh yeah, it's the same odds as John Mellencamp winning the was it the Oscar that our boy Kevin Malone made the bet in the office. If John Mellencamp ever wins an Oscar, I'm going to be a very rich man.
Thank you for that rendition. This is going to be a great championship fight, and that takes us into the next one, which is also a championship fight. It's a ladies' championship fight, which I'm really excited about. We got Amanda Nunes, who has kind of just dominated the sport, taking on Megan Anderson. This one takes place at the featherweight division. Amanda Nunes defending her title. Very excited about this one. What do you got for us here, man?
Yeah, so I think with Megan, you just have a girl that's tall, very good striker. She's got long legs, likes to use them. Great punching power, right? In the last fight, we saw her basically just drop the woman, and I think that was kind of a testament to just how good her striking can be. Norma just dropped, man. She just couldn't. She was. That was like watching like a heavyweight drop. You know what I mean? It's rare to see that in girl fights, and it was. As much as I want to praise that fight, because I think it's what really got her to this position to kind of be able to call out a title shot, and Amanda not really having anyone else to beat, that kind of thing. My favorite part is like she has a great decision experience, lost to Holly Holm. The Alexis Davis fight, Amanda Nunes has lost our girl Alexis Davis from da-da-da. And little things like that kind of stand out when you compare these two. But the one thing I like about Megan is that she seems really what's the word I'm looking for here? I think she enjoys pushing forward, but at the same time kind of picks the shots well, I think she knows that she can't just rush in. She's also kind of a taller fighter, a bigger fighter. It's kind of easier to take those fighters down if they're not moving as quickly. The thing about Nunes is she's just so well versed in every area of the game, right? I'm sorry to say, but if she gets through these kicks or even some of these, power punches that we're seeing her land against some of these other fighters, I'm sorry to say, but a quick clinch against the fence, I can see Amanda taking this fight to the ground very quickly. So for me, it's how well can Megan utilize her distance and her striking to keep Amanda at bay for 5 rounds? That's really what you're asking yourself. And frankly, That's a tall order, man. That's a tall order. And it's really cool because Megan Anderson has been really the talk of the town for some of her personal experiences. Like she's suffered from serious depression. Like she's talked about a suicide attempt, I believe. Like there's a lot of things that have kind of happened to her on a personal level that is kind of coming to light as well. And so you kind of just root for her. She has the opportunity of a lifetime. I think that, Amanda Nunes is one of those girls or fighters in general. It's not like a John Jones where you have some old blemishes that you can maybe revisit and see some tape and things like that. She's one of those ones where the development, the what she's become from those losses is really what everyone is marveled with, right? And I think that in this case, you really do have to find a way to beat the newest and best version of Amanda Nunes, because the moment Amanda Nunes suffered a loss, she seems to really pick up her socks and come back a lot better. And that's what really makes champions, right? So the way I'm seeing it is keep her at bay. Keep those strikes coming because Amanda Nunes is going to push forward and she's going to try to land some power shots herself. And if you're not able to use those strikes and slow her down, it's over.
That's actually what kind of has me very excited for this one, is that both these ladies have true KO power. You know what I mean? We saw Amanda Nunes have that serious, kick against Holly Holm. That was ridiculous. I'm pretty sure Megan Anderson had a crazy kick of her own that, cut an eye or something like that. So, both these girls have a lot of finishing power, versatility. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? You have to tell yourself there's certain fights that you just can't help but wait to watch. And I got to be honest, man. I keep thinking about this last version of Holly Holm that I saw with Irene Aldana. I mean, man, that might have been the single best female fighter performance last year. I was just shocked. Yeah. I was completely floored.
Domination.
By just how domination. Good. But in domination and just in a real way, right? Like if the scorecards could be 40-10, a part of me just felt like they should have been 40-10 on each round, Yeah. It's just it was just sheer dominance. And that's what you have to believe. If Amanda wins again, you have to kind of give this a thought because, man, there's no one I'd like to see more kind of take that. And a lot of these prospects that are making their way up, man, are just not ready. There's no one ready for this level of fighter.
And kind of working off of that mentality is where I landed on my line. And, I may be completely off here, but seeing some of these ladies defend their titles, the lines end up just being stupendous. So, you did say Makhachev would be the biggest. I personally put Nunes as the biggest on this card. I might be wrong, but, I put her at one of those stupid lines, minus 500.
That's exactly where I have her. I literally have her written as a minus 500. When I said Makhachev, I said one of. One of. No, I got Nunes. I got Nunes getting pegged here by Megs at minus 500. Because you have to ask yourself, at what price, right? Everyone's biting at something. I don't know. I just really think they are.
Dude, we weren't even close, man.
What is it?
You want to update a guess? See how big you can get?
I'm gonna say minus 980.
1,200.
Oh, that was I didn't want to go in the thousands, but I was gonna jokingly say 1,250. Jokingly. Wow.
That is the true live line, minus 1,200.
That has to be the biggest line you've ever seen, right?
What was that? I felt like that Shevchenko one was like minus 1,600.
No. It got to, I believe, minus 100,000 live, but that's about it.
Dude, plus 700 on Megan Anderson. That is nuts, yo.
Yeah. I mean, we're throwing out 500s and getting laughed at with minus 1,200. So, Vegas is taking no chances. Vegas is basically saying, hey, if she wins, go ahead and take Megan. If not, we'll take this. Vegas is taking this as a popcorn bet. They want the least amount of action on this, baby.
Yeah. Absolutely. They're either saying take Megan or don't touch it.
Yeah.
Essentially what they're saying there. So, that's going to be a great one. And oh boy, where does that? Yeah. Very fitting entrance for what we got coming up here, man. Oh baby, Błachowicz, Adesanya, let's go. Let's go, man.
I'm pumped.
Oh, man, this guy's going to be double champ, looking to be the best pound for pound fighter in the world. Mm-hmm. Błachowicz is going to have something to say about that.
100%.
Title for light heavyweight. Oh, my God. What a dandy this is going to be, man. Preview this one for me a little bit. Get me hyped about this one.
Yeah, so, here's the best thing that we know about Adesanya, right? He knows how to pick, he can pick his opponents apart. I don't think he has any issues weightlifting and getting to this weight class. He seems to be perfectly fine with it. The one thing I'm very scared of for Jan is you just can't be flat-footed against this man. Let's break this down a little bit.
Nope.
I think Kelvin Gastelum, even Robert Whittaker have landed some good strikes against Israel. Israel is just the better striker without question, but they landed. Mm-hmm. Kelvin Gastelum, whatever shaman he went to see or whatever voodoo doll he was playing with during that period in time, he was just an out of body experience. Is such an incredible boxer in that fight, and he touched him up really well. So for me, when you compare all of these guys, what's the difference? Paulo Costa, that man. I don't even want to belittle anyone. This is love of my life sport kind of thing, but let's be real. That was a demolition. That was a technical demolition. In terms of making someone look stupid without doing anything, Israel did that. And unless you paid attention to his hand movements, his head movements, those little things, like if you go in there and just count, you'll think this man is twitching if you slow-mo it. But he is just playing with Costa, moving his legs around, of not letting Costa line up exactly what he needs to start throwing. And you can see it. Every time Costa went to get his feet in the right spot, Israel moved. Every single time that Costa tried to get comfortable in a spot where he could strike, Israel moved. Israel did not let this man get to the one place that he needed to start executing. That's how good he is. Mm-hmm. Now, go back to the fights we just touched on, right? You really do have examples of where he does get touched. A guy who was fighting at welterweight, who moved up to middleweight, and is not very close in terms of reach and size, touched him up real good. How? Gastelum is quick, man. Gastelum's got the ability to change levels better than most because his striking is getting so good. So at the end of the day, when you're watching him being able to leap in and out on these guys that are, the 185ers, it's funny, but he might actually belong in this weight class. He just can't cut that low. He doesn't enjoy it. It makes him worse in fights. So if you're able to touch up Israel Adesanya for 4 or 5 rounds like that, all the power to you, man. So the way I see it is, Jan, take a look at some of these guys. I know you're not going to be able to move like that per se, but don't stay on those legs. Don't stay so flat-footed. Israel's going to pick the right setup of kicks to just damage that leg apart. He will kick that. If that leg is sticking out, it's just going to be the primary thing. And Israel loves to attack the same spots, right? So he's going to see that leader sitting there, and it's just going to be boom, 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 boom. And then all of a sudden, Jan's going to lose that power shot. And I think that if you really consider what Israel is good at, the last thing you want to be is on one leg with 4 more rounds to fight, and the fight always starts standing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it best. Israel finds ways to break down his opponent, right? And someone like Jan, where he doesn't want to deal with that power and stuff, that's a great way of doing it, right? Focus on that, like continue to break it down till he can't walk on it anymore, and then you can execute however you would like, right?
Exactly.
The one thing I kind of wanted to touch on with Jan in his last loss, right? It was against Santos, who we're actually going to see earlier on the card. And man, even in that one, like Jan seemed to be dictating, right? And Santos looked like he was kind of falling back, but then caught him,
And it's so funny, but that's how good of a striker Santos is. He just seems to make those opportune strikes. And I think Jan learned the hard way that you just can't rush in like that, even, when you seem to have thought everything through, because, anything can happen. And I think that he proved that against Dominick Reyes. How I thought he could beat Dominick Reyes, because we called that fight, was primarily from Dominick Reyes not being such a good, mobile fighter. Jan was the better striker. Jan actually had the better movement. He was just the better boxer, right? And so in this case, unfortunately, Israel Adesanya might be the best kickboxer in the UFC. Yes. This isn't just
ever.
I mean, for the Evers is just a crazy thing, but there's a chance. There's a very good chance he is, man. And for me, it comes down to, are you going to try to take this man down? Probably not. But how are you trying to get in on him? Because you're definitely not distance striking with Israel Adesanya. It's not happening. I think the speed factor alone will be an issue. But again, if the power comes into play, clinch play, that's where you're going to have to really try to, figure out this puzzle that is Israel Adesanya. Because let's be real, he is one of the few fighters where if we wanted to give you a way for one person to beat another person, it's actually the hardest thing to do, because his 86% takedown defense tells me that people tried and he just doesn't give a shit. And what his 0% takedown accuracy and 0% takedown average for 15 minutes tells me is he ain't trying to go down nowhere.
No, absolutely not, man. And, this guy, man, he is just impressed on all ranks, man. Ever since kind of Silva passed him the torch, he's just taken it on to a new level, man. And it's a beautiful thing to watch, man. It really is.
Well, it's so funny because there's so many people in between those two getting the fight or getting the belt. But in a way, you're kind of right, because it does come down to longevity and how long you stay the champion. But it's so funny. But I would say the middleweight division before Israel really came into light as a title contender was very much this fun-loving, like, classic case of, oh my God, am I watching Bisping beat Rockhold in what is the greatest storyline MMA has ever seen? Oh, wait, is that GSP making a comeback to beat said Bisping in a title fight? What is even happening? You know what I mean?
Insane, man. Insane. The names we've seen go through this division are just a thing of beauty, man.
And now they're going back up to light heavyweight for this one, because Israel has to go up.
Well, yeah.
And it's not like Jan is ever going to be able to go down. So for me, it's like you ask a guy like Krylov was asked the media day scrum for this fight, do you think it's fair as a light heavyweight for him to go and get the belt?
The title,
I'm pretty sure Glover might have a different answer, but Krylov was like, yeah, man, at the end of the day, this man's earned it. He really has proven his worth at his own weight class to the point where, sure, come and take a stab.
There's no one else. There's no one on his level in his division. So this is cool, man. I'm really excited to see him, kind of try and take that double champ. Very, very cool. Not something we see very often in the UFC. So I'm actually very curious to see where you think the line ends up, because
I'm going to go with Israel minus 275, baby. Let's do it, baby. Israel minus 275.
Let me finish.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, I was going to say Israel as well, probably at a minus 200.
Okay.
I did think it might be a little closer, given, Błachowicz is the champ. Let's see here.
The thing is, you have to... whatever. He can't be a 300.
Go ahead.
I just don't think he can be a 300 favorite, but at the end of the day, between minus 250 and minus 300, you have to tell yourself, again, you give me anything Israel Adesanya at minus 200 to minus 250, I'm probably parlaying that with some snooker game that's happening in some random ass. You give me Israel at a minus 180, I'm just going to ask my wife if we can just take everything and just wait. Let's just take the chance and see what happens, right? So that's where for me,
that's line of credit things right there.
Yeah, you just have to tell yourself that no 300, but that minus 250, minus 300 makes sense. So minus 275, baby, give me something,
You're close. It's in between our two lines. It's minus 250.
Right there. Okay. I wonder what the opening line was too, because I always thought that line could see the 300s, but would always move down. I don't think the line could ever move up past that, but I wondered if that line could have been 300, even close to like on the dot, and then move down, because it's just one of those things where how can Makhachev garner that kind of a consideration against the Drew Dober, but then an Israel can't gain that against the Jan. So there's also a lot more to look into, I guess, what meets the eye. But like I said, man, as long as Jan doesn't look flat-footed there and is keeping his knee just out there for Israel to just keep attacking and find the same spot, the same oblique kick to go over and over and over again, like all those little things, like it's what he needs to avoid.
Yeah, he does have that finishing power. We know this, right? And so this will probably be some of the most power Israel's seen. All right, and so that wraps up UFC 259. Man, what a treat that was. Discussing it with you. I cannot wait to watch it. It's going to be a beauty. Make sure you don't miss this one. If you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button. All our information is below. Always a pleasure, Siraj. This one was extra special, man.
My man, it's one of the best cards we'll probably see this year, maybe for a very long time. So I'm glad all these guys can get on there. Let's just hope they stay healthy.
All right. Take care, my brother.
Peace.